What's your rock bottom has a basement story, and how did you recover? I was homeless at age 18. I went to a homeless shelter despite warnings from some shady looking guy. I got treated like crap, got made fun of and belittled, and had my backpack with all my important documents stolen. All this was by the shelter staff, the people who are supposed to help. I still don't donate to any homeless shelter. You don't know how they're really like until they're your last hope. After that I sold my cell phone, bought a tent and found a backpack and a garbage can that reeked like cat pee but was otherwise clean, and did my best not to starve while going from place to place. My tent got stolen eventually, but luckily nobody took the backpack. I also got a revolver at one point. I recovered by getting unbelievably lucky and having my uncle find me and take me in and even give me one of his old properties in exchange for fixing it up real nice so he can sell it when he retires. If it wasn't for that I would have killed myself after the first snowfall. I was even saving a bullet for it. Jesus man, the last part hit hard. Glad your situation got better and hope you got your crap together. My very first semester of college I got pneumonia the first few weeks. A week after that I got a yeast infection, a very painful one too. Then I fractured my wrist a few weeks after that. Then after I had been home for Thanksgiving for a week and had to go back and finish the last 2 weeks of the semester, I thought, well, it can't get any worse, and I was hit by a car a week later. I quit smoking cigarettes, weed and taking oxy pills at the same time, cold turkey and with no help. My mental health deteriorated pretty fast. I felt like I really lost my mind for good. Took me a year to recover and feel relative normal again. Every month that goes by from then I feel better and better. Time was needed, I guess, for my brain's chemistry to balance. Was sick of my job, and one of the few redeeming features, my closest work colleague who worked for me in a team of 2, left, for entirely unrelated reasons to me. We're still friends. After a long time just feeling very alone, split up with my long-term ex, who owned the house we both paid towards, moved out, moved into the only flat I could afford in a quiet street, where nobody would really know if I was coming and going or not. Literal assets to my name at that point, a car, a handful of personal possessions, took out a loan to buy the most basic furniture, appliances, kept everything extremely basic, hoping to move on ASAP. I'm absolute introvert, no friends. I perform the bare minimum for family to stop them moaning but otherwise keep away from them all. Can easily go a year without seeing anyone outside of work. Don't even know the neighbors' names, but they complained several times when I first moved in about all kinds of petty nonsense. Turned out that after bills and things, I had a pittance of money each month to do anything with, and nothing approaching a luxury. Minimal shopping for food, clothes, etc. for months on end. I kept the new address from everyone for as long as possible, even my employer, deliberately. I figured it would take several weeks for anyone to find me, and if it did it at the right time of year, it would only be my employer who'd notice I wasn't there first, and then try to trace back, which would be tricky without police help. Started writing something to explain it all, and at the bottom of the page I had a set of boxes for all the people I wanted to say something to. After a few months of trying to finish it, there was still nothing in any of the boxes. It was a small list of names of people who might notice, and might be sad, but nothing in particular to say to them. Deliberately started spending time with those people, in case it was the last, and even found myself leaving them on. Not quite a speech, but saying something they'd be likely to remember if they didn't see me again afterwards. Bit worded so it wasn't seeming unusual at the time, which worked. By the way, nobody has ever suspected. A year later, still there, not quite as rock bottom as I was then, but not much better. Made a set of deadlines for if it's not improved by then, for when I'd finish paying certain things off, having some spare money, etc. Had a couple of little free, or really cheap, holidays with some of the people on the list. Again, always thinking in case that's the last time, because I don't see those people that often. Mood graph over that period to current day. X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X X I'm glad you are investing in those relationships and do actually have friends that are becoming more meaningful. You might consider being more open with one of them eventually. I find myself getting more quiet and depressed if I spend too much time indoors. Girlfriend cheated on me. My uncle died in a house fire on Christmas. My cousin was shot 30 sometimes because he was in a psychosis and tried to take a car. Watched my grandpa slowly wither away from a rare cancer in his abdomen. Failed all 5 classes that college semester. Tried to end my life but couldn't figure out how I'd do it, so said ex that cheated on me called the police, so I got charged for having alcohol. Jesus, that was a real roller coaster. I hope you're happy now. I can't get too deep because I'm on mobile, but basically, my older brother passed away shortly after I found out I was cheated on by my girlfriend, all while I was homeless and slowly losing the use of my left leg due to illness. Then I got the news my innocent, autistic little brother got cancer. He's been in remission for a while now. Current biggest worry is about Batman or something. I think we should all be worried about Batman. Vigilante justice is no substitute for the rule of law. Tried to kill myself. Got caught at the right time by mom. Mom breaks down. Tells me it's all my fault and I'm shaming the family name by taking the easy way out. End up staying at the hospital longer than necessary because mom needs an excuse. Start planning elaborate ways to kill myself and making it look like an accident or from a disease. A death that won't shame my family. Caught a bad case of tuberculosis. Laying in bed, get a deliriously good idea. I start throwing up whatever I eat or drink. Take meds on empty stomach. Take extra pills or take no meds. Having a weak stomach. Now I'm coughing up fresh blood in the bathroom or wherever. I hide them away. Say I'm taking my meds. No one figures out. Goes to bed one night. Wakes up in the hospital. I'm too weak to speak. I can't make much sense, but I feel somehow disappointed. See my best friend beside my bed. She's crying her eyes out. Sees me. Still crying, says she knew I'll survive battling this disease. Says she wouldn't know what to do if I died. Continues to say many things that I have forgotten about. I feel like I betrayed her. I'm crying with her. Long story short, I crawled out of that basement thanks to my best friend. It's pretty stupid compared to the rest, but when I was in middle school I really struggled with my self-image worth. I was majorly depressed and my escape was playing Call of Duty. I ended up befriending a kid who was in high school and he protected me from all of the older guys who'd call me a squeaker. Then one night my Xbox friend told me that he was going to get rid of his Xbox because it cost his family too much. I cried for a good hour because he was practically the only thing I had going for me. I went to my parents upset and told them that I was struggling and was depressed and got told stop being a bee. This is where I found the door to rock bottom's basement. I went back upstairs and was ready to kill myself. Drastic for a young kid, I know, but decided to check Xbox one last time to see if my friend was on. Luckily he was. I log in and he tells me he's going to get a job so he can pay for the Xbox Live subscription and we can keep playing. So yeah, thanks Delonswag for Eva, you kinda saved my life by working at Chick-fil-A. I like this story. Obviously sad for it, but I can imagine the relief and happiness of seeing your friend online. Girlfriend left me for my best friend. Then they kicked me out of the house that I was paying rent for. Turns out I was never added to the lease. Then they stole all my stuff by not allowing me near the house. I became homeless with just the clothes on my back. I was sick, too. It was great. I worked my butt off to get an apartment, go to college with no student loans, and get a good job. Dude, that's also illegal and balls. Sometimes calling the sheriff is a good idea. They could have at least escorted you in to get your stuff. Still ongoing at the moment, but overcame an opioid addiction and major depression and found my dream job. Well, old mistakes came back to haunt me and led to an arrest and 1 month jail stay after having had a baby 3 months prior. Facing years in prison for a first time offense and getting home to find out that my dear husband cheated while I was locked up, and then losing my home and struggling to find work when I had previously been able to find really good jobs. Finally working, but definitely not my ideal choice, and still dealing with my case. Still hoping to recover from it all. My daughter went into sudden respiratory arrest when she was 2 months old. Day 9 of IQ, I got a call that my older 3 kids were in a bad car accident with their dad and I don't know if they are okay. Fortunately they walked away with only mild concussions and my baby is preparing herself for kindergarten and is healthy as can be. I'm so lucky and so blessed. My stomach dropped just reading the first part of this. Went to my drug dealer's house to score some H. He lived in the basement of his grandma's place. Her entire place was decorated in pure white, frilly pillows with Jesus face on them. I hadn't crap in like 3 days, and while we're waiting for his guys to arrive, we smoked a cigarette, which loosened up my bowels nicely. I took a poo in his grandma's bathroom, and in my borderline withdrawal stupor, I didn't realize that the toilet hadn't flushed completely. Flash forward a half hour to when the dope arrives and we both get higher than God's left nut. I always smoked my H off tin foil and it always made me puke. So, I stumble my way back up to the Lutheran toilet and yak my brains out. I go to flush and it's clogged, but I'm gawked to high heaven. So I figure if I just flush again, it'll go down, right? No, not right. Anyway, I flushed like 3 extra times and then it all came right back up. So he hears what's happening and comes running up to see what's wrong while I'm standing on the edge of the tub while everything that had been in my stomach for the last 3 days comes raging up out of the toilet. He starts screaming that he's going to kill me and I'm pulling a bunch of white, lacy towels off grandma's bathroom wall. In the end, I used 6 or 7 towels, all with angels or Jesus faces on them to soak up my mess. I didn't quit using drugs for another couple of months, but I never saw aforementioned drug dealer again. It was definitely the lowest point of my life. TLDR, I flooded my drug dealer's grandma's bathroom and had to use her Jesus approved towels to clean everything up. That could be a heck of an amusing scene in a movie. About 7 years ago I went to get £10 out of the cash machine to buy a train ticket home and I couldn't. I had no money. I know that's not that bad. Things could be worse, but that's the only time in my adult life I've had zero money and I felt awful. Luckily a great man at work loaned me £100 and wouldn't even let me pay it back when I tried to. I am glad this is the only bottom that you know. Try and stay there, friend. So I got 3 misdemeanors and became homeless. Figured that was rock bottom. Had an upswing. Got married, only to go to a festival and acquire drug-resistant skin mites. Took several years to get rid of them. They also left me with a residual skin condition that seems permanent, that doctors don't understand and can't treat. You don't really recover from stuff like that. What I did do was learn to compartmentalize my feelings, learn a ton of self-discipline and become a way stronger person. Now I am a full-fledged adult with a skin condition who's recently picked up painting again, has started writing, and is learning coding. I remember sitting in my bedroom at 2 AM, trying to make myself start the 10-page research paper due the next day, and just feeling like life was impossible. I remember looking around the room for something to hang myself with. This was while I was on antidepressants. Somehow, I managed to not kill myself but instead stumble into my roommate's room, wake him up, and ask for help. I then lost control and started wailing and crying. I ended up failing one of my classes and almost failing another. After that, everything changed. I learned how to take care of my mental and emotional health and never got to that point again. Caught my abusive drug addict boyfriend cheating on me a few nights before we were supposed to move into a new apartment. He raged and chucked me out of both apartments. I stayed with friends and at shelters while working 3 jobs to get back on my feet. Had a hard time finding housing. Was struggling with PTSD because not only did he turn on me, the entire community I had built and the time I was with him did too. Even my own friends. Women were coming to me for months afterwards with confessions. I was also trying to stay sober during this time. Had nobody, was estranged from my family, wanted to die, eventually found housing with one of my remaining friends, adopted a cat and worked really hard to replace all my furniture. The apartment was crap but it was the first place I had felt safe in years. Fast forward 2 years, I'm still working a lot but live in a nicer place now. I have better friends and don't suffer with PTSD so much. My ex's actions still haunt me but I'm a lot stronger and trust myself and my instincts more now. And I'm still sober. I was homeless when I came out of rehab. then spent 6 months in a halfway house. I worked pretty hard to get a 1-bedroom in a share house in the city near me, while living with a group of people strangers my age. I had a massive relapse and psychological episode, which led to my telling of horrific and manipulative lies. Ultimately, I ended up in ICU for 6 days with internal bleeding. After quickly having to look for a new place, I checked into an intensive outpatient clinic that had a strong focus on dual diagnosis and therapy over the AA God model. It took years of continued treatments to get me properly medicated and as healthy as possible. It's still an ongoing battle, but I have much better tools. It was the depth of my eating disorder after starting a really crappy internship in the worst apartment I've ever been in. My landlord was a sickhead who wanted me to sleep with his friends. My roommates were too much older creepy men. My workplace often had fires on the warehouse floors and did not refill their fire extinguishers. And to top it off, I was going through withdrawal from my depression meds because my psychiatrist refused to do anything but raise my dosage when they didn't work, always. And my parents said I was slurring words now. The basement of rock bottom was staring at every single one of my ribs in the mirror in that shithole, having not eaten for 4 days and dizzy from withdrawal. Crying because I knew I was worthless and still needed to be thinner. How did I get out of it? Time and luck. I started forcing myself to eat something every day. I left my job a month early to spend time with friends and family. Got a prescription for different medication and started that. Went to a cabin with my best friends and focused on nothing but having a good time for a week. Moved from that sketch apartment. Started university again and had to eat to think. Relapsed a bit along the way, but I finished the term. Then I started a new internship and discovered a group of people and an industry that I loved. And after 4 attempts, I finally found a therapist that I click with and have been working through my issues. I'm not out of the woodwork yet. Don't know if I'll ever be, but I'm at the edge looking out, and that's so much better than I ever imagined. I have a similar story. I'm proud of you. It takes a lot of work to get through such things, and it's the slow, diligent kind, which others might not perceive. This all happened when I was in middle school. My cousins had lived next door, so naturally they became like a little brother and sister to me. My brother had brain damage because my aunt's boyfriend beat the crap out of him. My little sister had a speech impediment and was bullied a lot for it, so she developed some mental problems. And my older, biological sister would run away and try to kill herself as a child. So naturally I grew up in that environment, which led to depression. Despite all the problems, I really loved my family, and they kept me going. That was until one day my aunt started to abuse my little sister. My mom freaked out and called the police and CPS. This led to CPS taking my cousins and taking the aunt's side because she claimed that she was raped and that my uncle was the one abusing the kids. So I couldn't see them anymore. And as a young influenceable teen, that made my depression even worse. A few months after this, my best friend died of cancer. This led to me becoming paranoid that everyone around me was going to die, which is a bit extreme, and I isolated the frick out of myself. I was also having problems with my sexuality at the time, so I was struggling with a lot of things mentally. A few months later, my current best friend tried committing suicide and dropped out of school. I was in a public bathroom when I heard about that, and I got really angry at the world and decided to kill myself, which is super dramatic for a 7th grade LMAO. So I stopped crying and felt really relieved that I was going to die. And I went to stand up and I hit my head on that tampon box thing they have in female bathrooms. IDK how hard I hit my head. But after that I thought that I was stupid and that I shouldn't kill myself because the future might be better. I got super optimistic after that and my mental health got a lot better. Now I am about to graduate high school and go to my dream college. Crap really does get brighter in the most unexpected ways. PS. Sorry for the bad grammar and confusing story flow. Crap really does get brighter in the most unexpected ways. Truth. Just over 5 years ago I was homeless, in active addiction, and others were deciding if I should go to prison. Then the universe decided to show me that it gets deeper and took my fianca from me with an overdose. I decided that I had no idea how to live life and started taking advice. I let other people help no matter how much I hated their solutions. I went to treatment. I did what was suggested. I got clean and slowly, very slowly I learned how to take responsibility for myself. I started making the right choices no matter how hard they were. Today I have the career I always wanted with money in the bank. I am married to the love of my life and our relationship is better than I ever knew was possible. We have a beautiful 6-month-old boy who has my blue eyes. Friday we bought a house that we are in love with. If your life is a mess, it's probably not everyone else's fault. You should probably stop thinking you have the answers. Let go of the past and take responsibility for yourself. No matter what has happened to you in the past, it is still your life to live and you are responsible for it. Believe in yourself because your belief is the only one that can change your life. Bravo. Way to turn your life around. First my dad died. Next I learned my girlfriend cheated on me while I was at his funeral. Then I was on the verge of flunking out of college. Then my mom was falling so deep into depression my sister thought she might commit suicide. Only way I can explain how I got out of this depressing circle of heck was to man up. No one's going to help you. You need to find your own way out and put the pieces back together the best way you can. Sexual abuse as a kid led into homelessness, lack of education, and then I got into drugs. Then by age 19, I had managed to get my crap together. I had a home and some money coming in and me and my boyfriend were blessed with our first baby. She passed away at age 5 months of SIDS. And honestly, it's been 12 years and I've not really fully recovered from it. I never will, I think. You just learn how to live with that chasm inside you. I'm so sorry. Please know that you are loved. Was taking a crap load of benzos and morphine and wine and crap. I wasn't in the best mental state at the time. Going out with a girl who was lying about having cancer and being pregnant with my kid. IDK what happened, but the next moment I'm fighting paramedics. Then I'm fighting the police. Then I'm in a cell. 24 hours later I'm in a psych ward. In 48 hours I went from having a home, a family, a job, a girlfriend, to having absolutely frick all. Nothing. Just me, my bag of clothes and a hell a lot of crazy people. Discharged myself and got a train to a town I knew. Ended up in a hostel with a bunch of smackheads, but that ended up being the greatest time of my life. Every cloud has a silver lining and all that. I'm so sorry. Things will get better. In the span of 1 year my GF died. I was involuntarily committed to a psych ward. My mother died. Then I went to prison. I still really haven't recovered after 2 years. My dad died of cancer in March. My husband's grandpa died 2 days later. His grandma had to be put in a home because of Alzheimer's, and she just gave up living when the love of her life died. Then his dad had a heart attack, and his mom is in kidney failure and needs dialysis. And I work at a supplier for Boeing, which, if you haven't seen the news, is hemorrhaging money because of the max grounding. Which means if it stays grounded, layoffs are coming. And I've only been there a year, so I'll be first out the door. It just won't stop. We're at the end of our ropes and it just won't stop. I was 17. I was about to commit suicide, but my dad's best friend committed suicide on Friday the 13th. The same day I was supposed to end my life. I was already at the rock bottom. Nobody loved me. I had no friends. I was getting over a breakup that happened earlier that year. I've had no future and no prospects for life. I was just rotting away in my room. I've already had the pills and alcohol. So, I gave myself a week to see if something changes. Nothing changed. So I went with it. My mom was away for the weekend. So I downed a couple of pills and drank half a bottle of vodka. Then I blacked out and woke up on the ground next to the toilet. I was crying because I wasn't even able to end it all properly. I was sitting there. Tears were running down my face. The smell of vomit was in the air. The bottle of vodka and the pills were next to me. And I thought about trying it another time. I drank some vodka again, ready to take a pill. But I immediately threw up. I kept crying through the whole thing. But eventually, I put myself together and managed to clean the house. When my mom came, I told her that I have eaten some bad food. The worst thing was that I've had to go to school and pretend that I haven't tried to kill myself. The recovery took a long time. I gave up on my entire life. I grew out long hair so that no one could see how red my eyes were from crying myself to sleep. Then, I decided to live the best life I could. living as selfishly as I could. So, I've cut my hair and started abusing alcohol after I celebrated my 18th birthday. Eventually, I felt like I had to quit. I went to a party, so it was hard for me to control myself, hoping to get laid. I've met 2 sisters, who were living next doors to my cousins. I quite liked the older one. 2 months later, I went to stay with my cousins for a week, and I got together with the older sister. At the end of the summer, it will be a year since we've got together. As of late, I've graduated from high school. However, I started abusing alcohol again, but I'm working on myself. My girlfriend is concerned about me, but I hope to get clean. I thought being held down and raped by 4 guys was the rock bottom for me, but alas it was not to be. My then newlywed husband told me I wanted it and I was a mess. I spent a decade trying to get that idea out of my head. I was a virgin that married her first love. He ruined me emotionally and grew to ruin me and the children physically. It was a lot worse than I thought it could get. It took a lot of therapy and running away from him to recover. I just recently sold my car to pay for the divorce lawyer. He makes so much money that he was able to afford a lawyer that tried to say I cheated and left. He wants everything, but he won't win. I may not have much, but I'm not giving up this time. He doesn't know me anymore. He has never met Strong Shay. I may not have much, but I'm not giving up. That sounds awful, but you sound like such a strong woman. I truly believe in you. I promise you it will get better. Lived with my BF, which I thought was the one and I was going to marry someday, and we were going through a rough patch because I worked too much. So I decided to quit my job for the sake of saving our relationship. Came home to his apartment, where he waited for me to talk. Said he doesn't love me anymore and he wants me to move out and give him back his keys. I had now a year to go, and no job. Family pretty much didn't want me back and everyone all around was mad at me and claimed everything that was happening was my fault or didn't care. I spent next 4 months bouncing from friend to friend all in different cities who would have me for couple of days. Wrecked my health in the process because I was severely depressed and stopped caring for myself, being nearly suicidal and broke. Lived pretty much off coffee and cigarettes and sent hundreds of job applications getting denied over and over again. Things did get better though. I got a great new job eventually that I kept for 6 years. And it got me back at my feet for short, thinking my heck was over. Over the first year though, my health spiraled down tremendously and 2 years of heck with the doctors ensued until they figured out all the damage I have done to myself. Some of it very irreparable. It's been 10 years now since everything started and my health is still under constant observation. But I found new love, moved across the world some years later and got married to the man I love. It has a basement. I just thought it was a bottomless pit. I called suicide prevention. They said they couldn't help me and that there were other people in line waiting to talk. Lost my rental because I was renting under the table. Moved in with a stranger so I could try to keep my dogs. Our dogs fought and his German Shepherd bit my hand twice. So I finally surrendered them and went to a homeless shelter. Thought I was going to lose movement in my hand, but I recovered fine on my own. Before I left, the guy didn't seem worried about having me get checked out at a hospital. A month after I got out and was standing on my own 2 feet, I met my first alcoholic, so I didn't know the warning signs. Turns out he was also abusive, would slap me in the face and pinch my nipples until they bled. Couldn't face facts because it would make me homeless again. Then he tells me he's seeing someone else and he's going to call the cops if I don't leave again. Was renting under the table because we were dating. Go back to the shelter. Got another job after a few months and rented under the table again, obviously bad credit. Got fired after 3 months because I wrote a permanent end of call note stating who is John Galt. Got kicked out again. So I sold my car and hockey gear for a chance to flee he country because honestly I had been wanting to for a long time and finally was pushed past my breaking point. I regret fleeing, but only because I'm worried about being deported. Honestly, I don't miss USA at all. I hope I never have to go back, but I'm sure I'll get deported soon. No one has pity for a citizen of USA. The biggest kicker is that the IRS is withholding my federal refund. It's been over 3 months and they won't even give me a date. I have never been hoed out by the IRS before and I need the money now more than ever. Makes me feel like the government has been spying on me and is punishing me for fleeing. If If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.